Hey everyone, we're going to be talking this morning uh, about choosing an appropriate graph. It's one of the first lessons we're going to be doing before we get into the rest of the data and probability analysis. So the first thing we're just going to look at, and I included some images here, is a circle graph, which can be found right here. Now, there are certain strengths and limitations to each one of the graphs I'm going to be talking about here before we get into your assignment. So with the circle graph, it's very good at showing the parts of a whole. It does also show the percents, for example, on this one right here, which is perfect. It also has sizes of these sectors. Very easy to look at. You can a quick glance at it and you can tell that the romance part of the favorite type of movie was 30% was the largest part, and drama was the least part, just by looking at the picture. However, there are certain limitations of this. It does not show data values and the total, and they are really hard to draw accurately. Last year in grade 7, you should have been shown how to draw that, and maybe in a future lesson we'll be learning how to draw those as well. Second thing I want to look at is that of a bar graph right here. Very straightforward. We do have to make sure when we're drawing a bar graph that on the x-axis down here and going up here on the y-axis is that you do have a running total. For example, in this one here on the y-axis we have people, and down here on the x-axis we have comedy. And bar graphs also have bars, obviously, that indicate the number of things. They're evenly spaced in between each other. You can see that by this example here. I'm just drawing some little H's in there to show how far apart they are. They're very evenly spaced. And of course, they also have color. All right. They also have a title. Each one of these graphs that I have example, they need to have a title. So there are certain components when we're drawing all these that you have to understand. Some strengths to a bar graph. They compare data values with their lengths. The scale can be used to find the total very quickly, especially if you have a ruler and you plug it across there. You can see that for a comedy, it's 4, an action movie is 5, romance is 6, drama is 1, and sci-fi is 4. We have to also be careful on a bar graph with our intervals right here. Just drawing little red ticks there along the line that they do. This one goes up in groups of 2. They can grow up in groups of 5, groups of 1, or however else. Now, limitations, they may be difficult to read depending on the scale used, and it does not show percents for the total comparison. The line graph, number 3, which is found right here, right? They're easy to read. They show data changes over time. They can be used to estimate values beyond a point or between data points. However, some limitations right here does not show parts of a whole, and the zigzag pattern could be difficult to interpret. Again, though, they have a title. They have their intervals going up the side and along the bottom. This one has a little color of what the line represents, and has a title right here on the y-axis and on the x-axis, right? Pictograph, I'm just going to put a big circle around the pictograph over here. We don't usually use pictographs very much unless we're using it just to represent, visually appealing to the eyes, so to speak, or the eye candy. So for a pictograph, the strengths for that, lengths of rows of symbols compare data values. Graph is usually visually appealing, and the key can be used to find the total. Now, the key is important right here because one picture represents 10 apples, and then half the picture of the apple represents 5 apples, and so forth. So if we have ice cream cones, if we have pizzas up there, maybe a single slice of pizza would represent an eighth, depending on what the pizza is cut into and stuff. The fifth one, double bar graph. It's going to draw the area over here. This directly compares 2 sets of data. In this case here, it's comparing girls and boys. Girls are the yellow, boys are the red, and we're comparing the sports that they like, right? It's number of students, title again, and then we have our intervals on the y-axis and on the x-axis right there. All right. The length of the bars compare the data values as a strength. Scale can be used to find each total set, and they're very easy to draw. Right? We really like those. However, limitations can be used to show discrete data, may be difficult to read depending on the scale used, and two sets of data on the graph can be confusing. All right? So, with all this information right here, your assignment that you're going to be getting today is going to be using the information on the previous page to talk about the stuff here. Okay? So, for number one, Rebecca's family hosted a family. So, you will have to read over this and then answer all of these questions. All right? This will be in the form of a formative. And when it comes down here to number two, to use a bar graph or this, just do your best judgment if you can. When you're in the formative right here, if you're going to use a bar graph to display your data, just do your best. If you could draw your lines like this. And then lucky for you on the formative, there's different colors that you can use to, of course, fill in your little bar graph or however you're going to do that when you're drawing your bar graph and stuff when you're on the formative. Okay, just make sure you read the question carefully under each one and then answer. Okay, so there's going to be a number of different questions. Again, this will be on your formative online, and it's going to probably be in a show your work question or a short answer. Either way, do your best. And if it's a written answer like this, use the T tool like this. It's the A tool or the text tool. So I can type in here, use this when answering as much as possible. Again, when you're using the T tool, make sure that your spelling is correct and and whatnot. Size, I'm not too concerned about. Just make sure that you're reading over every single one of the questions when you're going through and refer back to that very first page where we had all our notes on there. All right. There are 6 questions. Again, this one's just going to be a very quick matching or multiple choice, depending on how I set it up. And then again, this is probably going to be a short answer question on the formative. Okay. With the exception of this last part right here, where you're going to have to draw one of your choices from the graph. All right. If you have any questions, I'm available from 9 o'clock today until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Just a reminder that after 3 o'clock, if it's within the hour or whatever, if I happen to be near my phone or a computer, I will answer an email. But after that, you'll have to save your questions for the next day. All right, look for this to be posted here right away, and I will talk to you tomorrow.